I went to sleep, and in my sleep I figured out this solution. So, okay, so this is kind of nuts. Um, I really, really love it though. So check this out. I love it just because it's like you watch it and you're like, this is just like the most confusing thing I've ever watched. Like why why is the POW? You're like you're not holding the POW, and then somehow you go through the door with it, and then I really really enjoyed um, making that because it's just funny, and I don't know if you'd care for me to explain it to you guys, but it's just it's fun to think through these things, and I really enjoy tassing, but I enjoy figuring out speedrun methods for real time much better. It's the best one. Yeah, I it's the fastest time for, and I helped collaborate the current warpless and warp record for the TAS. Um, I don't know if you, I mean, I mean, I almost want to show you more just because the reason we started tassing this actually was because of this crazy glitch. We figured out that, well, someone figured out that if you get a second carpet on the screen, you can move the carpet at super speeds. Um, and it took forever to figure out how to optimize like getting the enemy to like get them on the screen, throw the bird head off the screen. It was kind of nuts, honestly. I love the fact that that worked out well. And like these were some ideas. There were some these were some ideas that we were in the previous test. But honestly, this whole, this task itself um, is just, I just love it so much because it's, it's like, me and Aglar both had a lot of unique ideas, and he was amazing at optimization. So like, so like, the task is ridiculous. It's so optimized because one, I'm a perfectionist. I'm a perfectionist and I think of clever ideas. He's has really clever ideas also, and he knows how to optimize tasks, um, like as far as the actual like saving the frames of tasking. And I'm not as good at that. So so between the two of us, we really, really knocked this one out of the park. And this was this is the NES. It was tied for the NES TAS of 2011, um, with Battletoads. It was tied, but this one got. I think this one had the highest rating for 2011. Um, so no, but one dash three was awesome because because I think this was I don't think I ever told anyone about this trick until the task. And actually, no, I know I didn't. The funny thing was that I was actually doing real-time experiments with this game for the tasks, and it's usually the opposite. You know what I mean? Yeah, as Mario 2 has frame rules in the like with the bosses. Like the bosses run on a global timer. So like they only will shoot objects that you can kill them with every actually it's awful with Birdo. It's like every 256 frames. So that's like literally you're waiting like four or 5 seconds per cycle. So that's why we were able to save so much time in this test. But this tactic is something. The tactic in 1-3 is actually something that I came up with in real time, and I didn't tell anyone about it um, because we had started making the tests. Um, so this is something I came up with in real time. Um, Basically, well, what I did at first is that I grabbed the key at the very top, right? At the very top, there's a key and you bring the key all the way down and you go through that door. And that's normally what you have to do. But what I decided to do is I brought the key. I took the key and I was just kind of messing around and I was thinking about 1-1 and how you could go through the floor. With you could kind of like if you're at the bottom of a screen, you can go through the door through a floor if you climb up a ladder when an object's like going down on you. So like I'm just kind of messing around. Um, and I'm like, I'm just gonna take it to the bottom. Like this ladder just kind of close to the bottom of the screen, not really at the very bottom. And I'm like, but there are spikes there. Like, you know what? I'll just see what happens. So I threw the key, I jumped under it, I got hit by the spikes, and I held up. And pushed me the key pushed me through the ground. Um, I'm and this had never and this was the first time this had ever happened. And I'm like, how did what? I was just not even I wasn't even being serious about this attempt, about like doing this. Like I was just kind of joking with myself almost. And all of a sudden I'm like, where is this taking me? Oh my gosh. So 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 I'm like, okay, wait. It just took me to the room where the key takes me normally. Are you kidding me? Like like wait a second. I'm like, but would that even, I'm like, but with the key, would that even save time? And then I'm like, well, wait a second. I can definitely use one of those platforms to do the same thing. Like, that's gonna save like 25 seconds. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so much. I'm like, do you know how awesome that is? Um, like, so I used the platform, and then Aguilar is like, actually, why don't we use the enemy? And I'm like, you know what? Let's try it. Like, let's try and use an enemy. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but and then he's like, oh look it, I just figured it out. Okay. Oh cool, cool. Now we're gonna save like 35 seconds or something. Like, oh my gosh. Um, and then it was like we got here, and I'm like, wait a minute. There's this trick where you can throw the POW, and if it when it hits the ground, before it hits the ground, you pick up an enemy, that enemy. I'm like, okay, you if you do that, then what happens is you get to the next room, and there's an enemy there, right? Isn't that you're holding an enemy, right? Well, I was thinking, okay, that's useful because holding an enemy makes Toad move faster. But then I went one further, and I said, wait a second, if we could use the enemy to kill Mouser, Like, maybe we can make the enemy like bounce off Mouser like and just kill him pretty much instantly instead of using the bombs and having to wait for them to explode. So I was like, so let's see if we could do that. And we figured out that we could actually explode him in the air and kill Mouser by bouncing the enemy onto him. Um, and World 1 was like the most ridiculous. I'm like, I just came up with the coolest ideas ever for World 1. Like all of that was all my ideas. I'm like, this is amazing. Um, like we saved, and at this point we had already saved like I think 40 seconds over the current task, over the previous task. I mean, current at the time. these levels, these levels were, you know, we skipped some sand plots by kind of brushing over the Shy Guys. Killing Birder with a star makes a lot of sense here. I think the previous task did that too, though. Um, there's a lot of different little optimizations. Um, but World 1, I couldn't believe it. And with this too, like I said before earlier on the stream when I first started streaming, I was talking about how, you know, I go through and I read when I do things like this, I go through and read the manuals. I read all the forums. I literally went through the entire Mario 2 forum page, task videos, and checked out what people said. I looked at GameFAQs. I looked at Speed Demos Archive's entire thread. I looked at YouTube videos. You know, I did a lot of. I love doing that kind of research. And because of that, it's like there was like a 1 second save. And the reason I'm saying all this is because there's a 1 second save in this stage here that Timont mentioned in 2006. And I said, hey, we shouldn't forget about that because I saw that this guy mentioned this in a previous task submission and people overlooked it. So I said, well, we can save a second there by climbing the ladder on the other side. And it was good because, and then later Timon commented and he's like, I can't believe you guys actually used that. He's like, I thought I was gonna have to be like, you guys stink, you didn't use my suggestion again. But no, because I'm very thorough. I enjoyed looking at that stuff and utilizing it. This is a cool trick that we also came up with. You can go through doors. You can if you press up the frame that you enter a door, you can still run around afterward. It's kind of strange. So look. So it's like the frame you enter a door, and you have to be going on to the next screen that scrolls. In this case, it's up. I think. Well, they're all up in this game, up or down. So you're still free to move around. And what you can do is, if you can grab the enemy fast enough that you can actually take him to the next room, because you're like, the game's like, you're holding the enemy, but you already went through the door, so like, we're gonna take you to the next room with the enemy. Like, sweet, that's cool. Another, you know, another like 3 second time save right there. Like, I'm like, this task is working out to be absolute nonsense. Like, we finished, I'm pretty sure I remember finishing, we finished this stage and we were, I'm pretty sure, like 55 seconds ahead of the current task. Which is like, you know, that's nonsense, especially for a game like this. Now, this is at, okay, so World 1 was my showcase. World 1 was my showcase. Oops. World 1 was my showcase, but World 3 was definitely Aglar's showcase. And it's great how that worked out because I felt like, man, I'm finding a lot of cool stuff. Like I like I don't know. I I'm thinking I wonder what Aglar is gonna find if anything. I like you'll probably find something. He's really clever. Um, but this is Aglar's idea for how to do this part. And look at this method. Like like I think I might have suggested this, and then he's like, "All right, I did it. I figured out a really good way to do this." Like, okay, so what you have to do here is you have to you have to you have to travel upwards as fast as you can in this spot, right? Well, if you collide two enemies in the air and they're both being thrown, right? What happens is they collide and then they both travel up really quickly. So, so because the screen loops from left to right in this part, you can throw one to the left, one to the right, and then they collide. And so when they collide, this is what happens. Look at they travel up together, right? And you can actually stand on it. The screen scrolling like screws everything up, but Aguilar figured out a way to use double jumping and some clever maneuvering to like like look at like just I let me just I need to back up. I need to just you need to see that in full speed. Just like oh my gosh. Like how I'm like Aguilar, you're amazing. I'm amazed that you were able to do that. I'm like, are you serious that you just did that? Like, that was amazing. I'm like, I don't know how you even like, I couldn't even believe that he was able to do that. Um, my gosh. And even like him getting hit right there, it was to reduce lag. It's like we thought of everything. I mean, that's what TASes do, but I mean, with this one it was like every little thing I would be like he'd give me an input file and I'd be like, no, like this part would be better if we did this and I'd send him something and he'd be like, no, you gotta like crouch when you do that one little stupid thing. And I'm like, oh right, yeah. And we almost had a competition with it actually. And I think that's why this ended up being so good. That we'd be like I'd be like, this is a really good idea. Check this out. And he'd be like, this is a better idea. Check this out. And I'd be like, no. This way is way better. And whatever. It was a lot of fun. Aglar he's from Sweden, and he was really fun to um, work with on this. Yeah, it's all pieced together, every single frame. So it's like you get perfect inputs for a run. Um, and and I love it because tasks are basically just you being clever, um, and I enjoy that. So okay, so that's so this stage was also insane. Like like this one took us so long to figure out, but like I can't even believe that it worked because we're like okay, the door to the exit is right underneath us. I'm like, if we could get to that door somehow, like if we could go through the floor and get to that door somehow, like, do you know how much more time we'd save? And he's like, yeah, we should do that. I'm like, all right. So how are we gonna get to how are we going to get to that door? Like, there's two blocks that we have to travel through to do that. Like, Like, all right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna throw an enemy and get hit. And what that does is when you're getting hit, enemies can travel through objects. So we're gonna time it just right, and we're gonna get them stuck right there. Okay, well, that's part of it, and that will actually get us down one layer. But getting this down the second layer isn't really going to work out because um, you can't do this. You can't do the same trick because if you try to put the enemy into that little sand block below the shy guy, he'll just fall right out because there's nothing for the shy guy to stand on. So there's absolutely no way for us to get to that door. And then we thought, well, wait a second. Well, I know that there was a trick that you could use an item to kind of, you jump on it. If you jump on it at the right time and it's like the exact sub-pixel value, you can make it, you can stand on it and it'll bring you through the floor. So, so I said, okay, so what if we tried to kill an enemy, um, kill an enemy as we go through the floor to get underneath. I'm like, I don't really know how this is going to work out. Well, this is what we came up with. So we just killed the enemy and just jumped through the floor. It was and it looked so simple, and yet it was like the most complicated, complex sub-pixel thing you ever seen. Like I couldn't figure it out. Aguilar is like a master with that stuff, and he's like, "All right, I think he sent me something like a week after we just started this stage, and he's like, I figured it out." Like, oh my gosh, how did you do that? And that saved about, I think that saved about 20 seconds. So, World 1 and World 3 were definitely the highlights of this run. And I love it because I basically thought of World 1's tactics, and Aguilar basically thought of World 3's tactics. And both worlds are just amazing. Um, this stage was interesting because we decided to use Mario, where he hadn't been used at all in any of the tasks before. And the reason we used him is because he can jump a similar height to Luigi, but he doesn't have that flailing leg kick. And so you can travel vertical areas much quicker. The reason he wasn't used before is because he couldn't actually, they couldn't figure out a way to make him jump high enough for some of these jumps to land on the platforms. But we figured out that Mario could jump just high enough to do everything that Luigi could. So it was really cool that we got to use Mario in this stage. Hey, Magic Man. Alright, so this was Aguilar. Aguilar, I thought this was really clever. Aguilar abused pauses, and I didn't. We had finished Mouser, and he was like, "Hey, actually, no, this is what the new run is," and I'm like watching it, and I don't understand it. I'm like, wait, did the run desync? Like, is this what it's supposed to be? Because there's random pauses like just happening, like. Why are there pauses? And the reason for it is because he was able to manipulate the bomb explosions so that the positions and bomb explosions came at the fastest points. And then at the end you notice that he actually takes a hit, and so what he does is he's pausing to manipulate the bombs and Mouser's position in relation to them. But what he also does is at the very end, he takes a hit, and that's to get rid of the lag that came from Mouser dying. very, very clever. I would never have thought of that, and so it's like, I don't know. It's just cool how that works out. Aglar did some pretty amusing things in the run too. Like, I love I love his antics. Like, not only is the task incredibly optimized, but the task it's very entertaining for the sake that there's a lot of new glitches, the fact that there's a lot of stylish movement. There's, there's just a lot of effort that went into this, and me and Aglar had a lot of fun making it. They like showcase some of those stupid glitches. Like, it doesn't waste any time, so might as well. There was also some like little, you press left and right and it moves you one block to the right. It's like, I think it saved like 12 frames or something, but every single frame counts, and it's just funny. Like every little, in a task, every little thing is done for a reason, and the things that seem pointless are usually just either they have a purpose or it's just for fun. Like, this is kind of clever. We tried to get the star at the latest possible point so that we could kill Birdo. I don't think the previous test. I don't remember if the previous test did that or not. I don't think it did, actually. At this point, I think we're about a minute and 10 seconds. We were about a minute and 10 seconds ahead at this point, I think. And so we got to this next stage, and this is a hilarious. I love that. Aglar is very amusing. He's very clever, and he's very amusing. So this stage, all right, just watch this stage. All right, here we go. This is the best stage in the game, I think. So so you watch that and you're like, wait a second, what? What? Isn't this supposed to be fast? Like, what is he? Why are you doing that? Like, what was that nonsense on the ladder? Like, was there? What is the purpose of this? And the purpose of it is that we had to wait there anyway. We had to wait there because what we were doing is where we were waiting for Birdo's position to be the farthest point right, so that when he shot the egg, it was the furthest point right. So, we're literally going, at the edge of the egg. You know, it's kind of funny just though, because you watch it and you're like, what was the point of that? What was that, just for fun? But I just love that it's like it has a purpose, but you would never realize it, like, unless you looked really careful at it. I mean, it's like I know every little detail about this task because I was a co-author. But I mean, like I was saying before, though, Aglar came up with pretty much all the movement on this. He's just so good at optimizing that I think most, if not all, of my inputs are not in this, just because he optimized everything just a little bit better than I did. So that was that same trick where you can go through the floor if you jump on it at just the right spot and subpixel. This stage is interesting because it had not used Toad before. It used Luigi. So using Toad was kind of crazy. Like, I figured that there must be a way, and I was gonna try and come up with a method. And by the time I came up with a method, Aglar already had a method and a better way of doing it than I thought of. So this is all Aglar right here. All of this. Like none I had no part in this part. This stage this stage was completely him. Um, it's like very very clever the way that he does things. Why did we do? Oh, why did we do that? I think there was something to do with the fact that the enemies would collide or something. I don't remember, honestly. That was a... This was a very obvious solution. Very easy. I never really explained the fast ladder, but if you press up and down on a ladder, it shoots you at super fast speeds. It's only something a task can really do, unless you're breaking your NES controller. Again, we used the go through the floor sub-pixel trick. The bombs explode, so you have to get rid of them at a certain point. It's kind of funny. This point was kind of funny because there were two methods. There were two methods of getting, like, you would think this part would be really simple, but there was two methods of getting to that top platform, and one of them was duck. You have to duck. You know, if you do a duck, you can do a super jump, and it takes a full second for you to do that. But if you go to the left, the screen, you know, you come out the. If you go into the left side, you come out the right side. But we figured out that doing a squat jump was like 1 frame faster than going the other direction, which was we're just like, because we got stalled there for a second because we're like, wait a second, I think we can maybe do it faster if we do a duck jump maybe. That was kind of interesting. Just a subtle note that I thought I'd point out. We used the carpet glitch here in this level too. The biggest problem with this level was actually reducing the lag. It was really, really troublesome. There were so many enemies, there's still a lot of lag there, but it's like, that part is it's too complex to explain. It's like, you're carrying a dead enemy, and then you can kind of manipulate it. And you can throw a dead enemy that's bouncing off of Birdo back into its face. But it's just ridiculous. I love the nonsense of it. And then these levels are part of the warp run also. So I mean, it was basically established what the best methods were. But regardless, we actually managed to save, or rather, Aglar managed to save, like 10 frames or something on this stage. I think it was like, I think he managed to save like just a few frames on each stage. in World 6. He may have not saved any frames in this stage. I can't recall. This stage is just amusing to watch, so you should check it out. This is also something that can be done mostly in real time. I always wonder if Nintendo put that in there intentionally. It's just such a, it's funny. It's just such a, like a perfect staircase for you to speedrun it. I think Aguilar did save frames pretty much in every single stage of World 6 and 7. I think 6-3. Yeah, you shoot over the hill, over the wall. I mean, like watching this it's like I look at this and I think there's nothing special just because I know it so well because I did speedruns of it. Basically, what you're doing is you're getting multiple hits off of these enemies by getting hit at specific points. It's just nonsense. It's like most of that stuff is not really possible in real time. I thought of, this stage. I want to just say that this stage I spent a lot of time. I spent a ton of time looking at this stage, and you know what I figured out? I figured out that you can climb up that ladder and you can climb into the ceiling. It takes you to another screen, and you can actually skip getting this rocket entirely. And I figured out a really, really clever way to do it. I was like, this is awesome. Like, I figured out a way to skip the rocket. Like I think this probably save at least 2 seconds or something. And it turned out that it was about a second slow. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And I still am kind of mad about it because it was like, I figured out how to skip the rocket. Like, how cool would that have been? But nah, it didn't work out, so we stuck with the old method. I was just very disappointed, and I thought I'd mention it. Now, once again, the up and down movement shoots you up the ladders at incredible speeds. It's fantastic. The last stage, I think Aguilar managed to save, I want to say, like 50 frames or something like that. Actually, maybe not, because Wart's position is kind of steady. Actually, I think he saved some lag frames though by despawning that plant. We optimized the crap out of this, trying to see if we could. I think this stage maybe took the most time. We spent a long time optimizing this just because Wart. If we could get to Wart a cycle earlier, we could kill him like 4 to 5 seconds faster. We didn't manage it, but we came close. I think we did get. Yeah, we didn't quite manage it, but we did manage to really kill this. This game is just like. I appreciate this game a lot more. When we first started testing it, I didn't have high hopes at all. I thought we'll improve by maybe like 3 or 4 seconds total. And the fact is, we improved by I think a minute and 35 seconds over the old run. It was just such a cool thing. And it's not like it wasn't just like one of us did all the work and one of us, it's like we both came together and thought of a lot of really clever ideas. We one-upped each other on different tricks and how to optimize things. It just was really a fun task to make, and It remains the current record right now. Um, I want to say I'm sure that the warpless record probably is improvable, but the amount of subpixel management you need to do and like the amount of optimization that went into this was just absurd. Um, the warp run, we submitted the warp run also because it had all the same stages obviously, um, and that run is really really good also. It's not as fun to watch as this one. This one has, I mean, just because this one displays the whole game. Um, but no, but the projects it took a long time. We did so many revisions of 1-1. We did we literally found like 7 ways to do the first stage of the game faster than the previous task. Um, and it was honestly it was like, like we would try one method and we'd go to the next one and I'd say, how about this way? What about this way? And then we finally figured out when I was sleeping, ironically, when I was sleeping, I figured out the best possible way to do the first stage, and it was just really cool. So I had a lot of fun, and I think Aguilar did too. It was really fun working with him, and I kind of want to work with him on other tasks just because I felt like we were such a good team on it. So testing's a lot of fun. I enjoy it less than I do actually speedrunning the game, just because speedrunning it's like you're executing and you're finding new tricks, but testing is fun because you get to really explore the ideas of the game. They both have their merits, but I really love both. Um, Being clever is fun, so um, that's the end of this commentary. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it.